Hi everyone, this will be a video series walking through the midterm from fall 2019. So each question will be divided into its own video, so if you're looking for a specific video or specific problem, you can go to that video. Right, so going through problem number 1, this is your standard what would Python display question. So it's a lot about knowing like the syntax and being familiar with the Python language. And so for some people, they really like this because code writing questions, sometimes you're put on the spot and you just can't think of it at that moment. But as long as you do enough practice on these types of questions, you should have a pretty good chance of knowing what to expect. So that's really one great thing about this kind of question. Okay, but anyways, let's get into the first line. So first we have x or y, and this is going to be 8 or 88 when you translate it from the left side, because we have these two variables x and y. And so 8 or 88 is really testing you on whether you know how OR works. So OR is always going to look for the first truthy value. And what this means, or what I mean by truthy, is that 8 is not actually the value true, but for any number besides 0, it's considered to be truthy, which means it is pretty much just as good as true. And fun fact, if you were to write code that says if -5, so this works even for negative numbers. If you were to say print hi, it would actually do the printing for you and say hi, because -5 behaves like true. And that's the same for 8. So only 0 is falsy. Rest is truthy. Okay, so knowing that 8 is pretty much true, so it returns 8. Okay, we have a similar situation in the next one, where we have 8 and 88 times 8 divided by 88. So for and is going to look for the first falsy value. And if it doesn't find any falsy value, it's going to return the last truthy value. And you can kind of think of it as it searches and searches for any falsy value. It loves falsy values, but if there's none, it just gives up and then settles for the last one. So this is actually going to give you, I'll write it over here, 8 and 88 is going to give you 88 because it's the last one. Alright, and now we have 8 divided by 88, which if we simplified it into a function is 1 over 11. Now we have 88 divided by 11. We know that is 8. But one small thing is that you have to add on 0.0. And the reason for that is because whenever you do any kind of division, it's going to add on a decimal. So here we have 8 divided by 88. And that's actually going to be, if you wrote out what 1 divided by 11 is, it's going to give you a decimal. But even if you had some kind of thing 4 divided by 2, this is actually going to give you 2.0 instead of a whole 2 as an integer. And so behind the scenes, there's some typecasting going on, but just know that if you do a division, it's going to turn the whole thing into a number with a decimal. Okay, so this next line, we actually have an older version of the exam here, and the real line on the exam that was taken by students was this line. But if you want to know the answer to this line, feel free to type it into your Python interpreter to see what kind of behavior it does. It's kind of wacky. So we don't really expect people to know it off the top of their heads. and this is the line we actually tested on. So we have strain of x equals y divided by x and minus 3. So remember your PEMDAS here. Okay, so first things first, we have to decide which one to evaluate first. So we know that division comes before it, before subtraction, so it's the D and the S. So we're going to do y divided by x, which is 88 divided by 8. So this is going to be 11.0. And then we're going to do 11.0 minus 3, and that's going to be 8.0. So now we're going to cast x into a string, and x is 8. So that's going to be 8. And then we're going to compare that to 8.0. And clearly these two are not the same. So this is false. Okay. Sorry, my work is all over the place, but for the next one we have pi plus z. And z is just Python. So remember that when you add two strings, it's just like concatenating them, which is a fancy word for saying put them together. So this all together is just pi Python. Okay, so now we're actually going to get into functions. And we have a call to fun, and our f is going to be max, our x is going to be 61, and our y is going to be 88. So in the function, we actually reset f to be min. So it doesn't matter what we pass in as f, it could be anything, but it always gets reset to min. And then it's going to return min of x and y. So it's just going to take the lesser of the two numbers that gets passed in. And in that case, it is 61. Okay. And then for the next one, we have a nested lambda function. So the first lambda takes in x, second one takes in y, and then altogether returns w of x. Okay, so first we have 2 as our x and 3 as our y. And now we have to figure out what w of x is, which is w of 2. So we go over here to w, we see that x is assigned to 0, and then it says, while x is greater than 0, return none. Well, we just assigned x to be 0, so of course it's not going to be greater than 0, and so we just return d plus 1. And what was d? Well, it was 2 that we passed in over here. Okay, so that means altogether this is just 3. Okay, and that's it for this